Okay, I'd like to open the public portion of the April 26th meeting of the Richfield Park Board of Education. The time is now 8:01. Let's begin with the flag salute. Can I please have a roll call?
Mr. Cathcart,
I'm here.
Mr. Cooney,
Here.
Mrs. Kraft. Here. Mr. Phytros,
Here.
Mr. Gomes, Mrs. McNeil. Here. Mrs. Rodriguez, Mrs. Velez,
Here.
Mrs. Orth,
Here.
President Martinez.
Here.
Also present is Dr. Bender and Nancy Loyacoto. And State Monitor, Mr. Egan.
And we have quorum.
Our attorney, Mr. Disler.
Can you please read the Open Public Meetings Act?
The Open Public Meeting Law was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and to attend the meetings of the public bodies at which any business affecting their interest is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with the provisions of this act, the Richfield Park Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting to be published by having the date, time, place thereof posted in the Bergen Record, Star Ledger, Municipal Building, Board of Education offices, and the district website. Public participation will be conducted both in person and virtually through Zoom. All public will be muted throughout the meeting. Public participation comments are limited to 5 minutes. The public will be able to both speak and be seen by the board when participating virtually, telephonically, via Zoom. Individuals participating virtually that wish to make comments during public participation will need to raise their hand by clicking the blue hand icon at the bottom of their Zoom window. Individuals participating by telephone that wish to make comments during the public participation will need to hit *9 on their telephone to raise their hand. The Business Administrator Board Secretary will then unmute individuals one at a time to speak in the order their hand was raised.
Thank you. We have no minutes to approve and no correspondence from the public. We're going to move on to committee reports. Negotiations, Trustee McNeil.
Thank you. The negotiation team met on the 24th. It was Mr. Disler, Dr. Martinez, Ms. Velez, and myself to discuss the RPEA contract. We continue to move that forward.
Thank you. Buildings and grounds.
Yes, buildings and grounds. Due to this time constraints on the budget, the Building and Grounds Committee has not met as of recent. However, as an update, there are no major capital projects being started at this time. We still do not have a date on the ROD grants, but as soon as we do, it will be part of the Buildings and Grounds Committee report. And we will also update you on the summer construction. Thank you.
Thank you. Faculty and programs.
Hi, good evening, everyone. The Faculty and Programs Committee met yesterday, April 25th. Present at the meeting were Dr. Bender, President Martinez, myself, Trustee Rodriguez, and Trustee Gomes. The first thing we did was review all of the agenda items on the proposed agenda for tonight's meeting under Faculty and Programs. The next topic we discussed was the preschool. Dr. Bender confirmed that both the co-op and Little Stars have received contracts for next year with a total of 4 classes, 2 for Little Stars and 2 at the co-op. Trustee Rodriguez had questions about the current inclusion preschool program at Roosevelt School, and Dr. Bender shared that anyone who is currently attending the pre-K program at Roosevelt School who does not have an IEP will not be required to pay tuition next year. The state is coming to visit on May 5th, and they will be visiting both sites. Dr. Bender, I believe, is coordinating that effort. The lottery was discussed at great length. It's going to be held during the daytime with 5-year-olds picking while being recorded for our website, possibly being live streamed on May 11th at the Elks Club at 3:30 p.m. We discussed the co-op not providing aftercare, whereas Little Stars and elementary schools do. Trustee Rodriguez questioned how students were going to be selected at the different sites. Dr. Bender is currently in the process of coming up with a team of staff to determine placement protocols for those families selected for the preschool program. We discussed staffing at great length and who is tasked with hiring staff for the new classrooms. That's something that we're still waiting for an answer for. The district is required to include pre-K staff in professional development next year and provide lists for substitute and teachers and teaching assistants, substitutes for both teachers and teaching assistants. And any 3-year-old currently enrolled in a pre-K program at the co-op or Little Stars is guaranteed a spot in the program, and siblings will be required to enter the lottery. We also received an update on sports and the fields for both spring and fall. Dr. Bender informed us that Mr. Ramundi was meeting with his coaches today for input about the fields. We discussed possibly reaching out to the county to ensure that the soccer program had fields to play on in the fall, what the cost would look like to play in Overpeck. And there was discussion about conversations with the town and fertilizing the fields, which would interrupt the use of those fields by some of our athletes. So I know that that conversation is ongoing, and that was it.
Thank you. That was very thorough. That was very thorough. Finance and Insurance Trustee Gomes is not here. We did not get to meet prior to the budget presentation tonight, so I'm sure that our trustees will have some questions. Personnel also did not meet. And so if Trustee Orth, if you can give us an update on the superintendent search process, which is basically that the May 5th. Yep, and then
So the superintendent search continues. The application is open until May 5th, at which time the search firm HYA will present to the board a slate of candidates and their recommendations on who we should move forward to, but it will be the board's decision as to who we choose to move to the round of interviews.
thank you. We'll move on to the superintendent report.
Good evening, everyone. I'm going to allow our student rep to give her report first.
Good evening, everyone. I would like some time to shed light on what student government has been working on. I am excited to announce student government is hosting a volleyball tournament tomorrow starting at 6:30. This is where students can form teams amongst their classmates, favorite teachers, and coaches. For inclusivity, there is a high school division and a middle school division. If you're interested in watching, you could attend tomorrow as a spectator for $3 and see what fun we have here at Richfield Park Junior Senior High School. Another thing to look forward to, at least for the seniors, is Donut for Decisions Day. The guidance department is giving donuts to seniors on May 1st in celebration to National College Decision Day. Seniors are encouraged to wear clothing that represents their future plans. The guidance department celebrates all decisions, trade school, military, gap year, work, 4 years and 2 years. Thank you, guidance department, for making May 1st special for us seniors. Additionally, if you want to see where our seniors are going, I encourage you to check out the bulletin board in the comments. They're putting more names daily there. And if you want to put a face to a name, there's an unofficial student-run account on Instagram called RPHS Commits 23 that posts our decisions after high school. If you're interested in where I'm going, I received a scholarship at FDU at the Metropolitan Campus. Thank you. And Gabriella, the student representative that usually comes with me, she has work today, sadly, but I'm expecting for her to announce her decision when she comes next. So thank you for your time.
Excellent report. Thank you. Now I'm going to ask if Mr. Galasso is on. He's not on yet. Okay, I have Ms. Cavins. Ms. Cavins, can you please come on up? And Ms. Kelly, can you please bring up the slide presentation? So for those of you that are here in the audience and also those that are watching, as you know, we always love to celebrate our students, and this one happened to be for the arts. I'm going to pass the baton now on to Ms. Cavins if she's ready.
I am ready. Thank you. So this evening, I'm very pleased to stand before you to recognize some of our finest seniors for their achievements in the fine arts. So in particular, we have 3 of our 7 seniors who combined achieved 17 acknowledgements from Scholastic Arts for excellence in art in the North Jersey region. Scholastic Arts is a national organization which recognizes excellence in art and writing of high school students, and you can find more information on their website. There are different levels of awards, and we have several winners upon us tonight in our midst that we're so proud of. The Gold Key awarded students had the honor of having their works on display at the Afero Gallery in Newark throughout March. So this is a very big deal. So tonight you will see in the slides some of the students and some of their selected works. And right now I'd like to ask the 3 students to come up behind me tonight. I believe we have some certificates that Dr. Bender will be presenting. So first we have on the next slide, we have a work entitled Quartz done by Josephine Carroll, which earned a Silver Key Award. On the next slide, we have a beautiful work of art by Selena Galarza, who's with us tonight. It is entitled Bliss, and Selena earned a Silver Key Award. On the next slide, we have a collection that has a theme by Ina Laya, and she earned a Gold Key Award for her artwork entitled Batwings, Silver Key for another one entitled Shaving My Legs, and an honorable mention for her piece entitled Comparing Myself. All of her works together in totality make quite an impression, are very powerful. On the next slide, we have 2 works of art by Essence Martinez, one entitled Imposter Syndrome, which earned an honorable mention, and another entitled Spray Bottle, which also earned an honorable mention. On the next slide, we have 2 pieces of work from Sadie Mercado. One is entitled All Eyes on Me, in which a Silver Key Award was earned, and the following entitled Green with Envy, which earned an honorable mention. Next, we have 2 works of art by Ray Plata, who is also with us here this evening. And the first work of art is called Etching of a Pelvis, which earned a Gold Key Award. And the second is called Underneath the Skin, which earned an honorable mention. Last but not least, we have 3 works of art by Tony Reyes, all of which earned honorable mention. The first entitled A Piece of Candy, second entitled Pancake Peak, and the third entitled Bowling Night. And as you can see, our students are artists of different mediums and different inspiration types and different styles, but they're all extremely talented. And this is not only in part due to their own talent and creativity, but our fine arts department, which I know I'm biased, but I believe is second to none in Bergen County. We have outstanding committed art teachers that develop our students' talent and bring them to this place where they can have this success. Special acknowledgements this evening to Tony Reyes for being awarded a Gold Key for the art portfolio. Tony, who is with us here tonight, is the first RPHS student to ever earn this recognition. This is a very big deal. This is Tony. And then Ina Laya, who was unable to be here with us this evening, was awarded a Silver Key for her art portfolio, which you saw earlier. So congratulations, Ina. And Sadie Mercado earned an honorable mention for her art portfolio as well. So congratulations, Sadie. And just to clarify, art portfolios consist of 8 works of art that focus on a central theme. So it's a work of time and progress and creativity and inspiration that doesn't happen overnight, but our students are so incredibly talented and we're so happy to share their gifts. Well, we're happy they share their gifts with us and then we can share them with all of you. So thank you all so very much for your time in recognizing our students and also the staff that gets them there. So thank you and congrats to all of you. And at this time, I know Dr. Bender has certificates for you. Yeah, just watch the words and then I'm going to take pictures.
I just want to add that I can barely draw a stick figure. So for me, having these awards, our recipients of our students here is just something else. I'm speechless actually, which is hard to do. All right. So now I think that at this time, I'm going to say just a couple of words about what we have going on in the schools. Parents, I need to ask that you please check your emails consistently and for upcoming events. I'm not going to announce many of them. I just want to make sure that parents know to please check because we have spring concerts coming up. So on the elementary level, I want to announce that Lincoln School and Roosevelt School had the Barn Hill Preserve. They came and K-2 attended an assembly where exotic animals such as the bearded dragon, they came in and brought their exciting animals for those to see. Lincoln School reminds us that this month is autism awareness, so please be cognizant of that. And then something very special at Lincoln happened that in the future, I will bring these two students in. We had two students that helped with a choking situation. A big shout out to these two first graders for alerting Dr. Ferraro of a student that was choking. And when Dr. Ferraro went to the student, it turned out that everything wound up well okay. So again, big shout out, and I will bring those two little guys in. Then we have Grant School had their spring concert last night. It was fabulous. They had the older students celebrated with a lot of themes from Disney, and our younger students sang many songs on the earth. And they had a kindergarten adopts peeps, so they learned how to take care of their own peeps, and they had to be responsible for bringing them home and making sure they didn't eat their peeps or have anything happen to the peeps. And that Roosevelt brings me Scarlets. I want to thank Ms. Cavins because the Scarlets came down to Roosevelt School with Mrs. Pucciarelli and visited the Scarlets for what is going on, and coming up here it will be very exciting. I know you'll be visiting all three elementary schools. And the last thing for Roosevelt School is that they had their book fair this week. So now, without further ado, we're going to present the budget. So you're going to have to bear with myself and Ms. Liacano here because I don't profess to be a business administrator, nor do I have any desire to be. So here we go. Next slide, please. So Nancy, please feel free to jump in. So I thought it would be important for us to show the public, what is the process? What happens when we prepare a budget? So there are pre-budget meetings that we conduct with the administrators and sit down and discuss what would we like to see for the upcoming school year. So that initial budget is our wish list. Then we have the state of the state. They announce the school funding. From there, we draft a preliminary budget for the board presentation and the first approval. The preliminary budget then gets sent to the county and is approved. From there, we go to a public hearing and board approval. Now, balancing the budget equals a balanced budget. Additional budgetary adjustments may be required. For example, final state aid funding, which is issued in July and August. Final state federal grant awards, an example, the ESEA, ESA, IDEA, which is special education. And currently our budget contains only 85% of what the award is. Final settlement of the contract, of the budget rather, could include things such as negotiations. In this upcoming school year, there are items in our budget that may be in our budget from the tax dollars. However, we may be able to slide some items into the grants. Some things may, if we amend our grants, we may be actually able to take items out of our budget and have them paid for through federal funding. So ultimately, we all know that budgets can be fluid. Next slide, please. There you go, Nancy.
This graph notes what our tax levy for last year was. The state did do their analysis of health benefits, which reduced our ability to go to 2%. So that 88,000 plus was deducted from our prior tax levy before applying the 2%. So our current I have that correct. So the current tax levy is, instead of being 2%, is 1.68%.
So for some budget goals, we would like to continue to expand on some of our curriculum initiatives to reduce overall COVID learning slide. I don't like to call it COVID learning loss. I like to say that it's a slide because we can turn that around. Added focus on improving upon academic areas of concern. One area I'm concerned with is our math area. We want to continue to place students in the least restrictive environment and maintain and expand upon our universal preschool program. Next slide. Others would be purchasing new uniforms for the middle school sports. We're going to continue to support technology initiatives. We want to enhance and expand our CTE and dual enrollment programs and continue our summer enrichment program with a focus on extending that program into the school year of 23-24. So here you'll see that we have an introduction to flight, aircraft systems and performance, and math foundations. As you know, we have our aviation program, which I am really proud of, and I want to thank Ms. Cavens for making sure that it is successful and it is expanding. Yeah, Mrs. Kelly, if you can show that, nope, back up, show that video while I read some of this. So the introduction to flight course, we have a rationale that in the introduction to flight course, students pursuing the pilot and UAS tracks will look closely at the aircraft they may one day operate. UAS stands for Unmanned Aircraft Systems. In other words, the drones. Can you play that one more time? Because I didn't get to see it while I read that. Once more for the audience. That happens to be our simulators that we have. Those are our students. Fascinating, right? So you can go back to that last slide. Students will understand how aircrafts are categorized, be able to identify their parts, and learn about aircraft construction techniques and materials. They will gain an in-depth understanding of the forces of flight, which is lift, weight, thrust, and drag, including how to make key calculations. They will then touch on aircraft design, looking at stability, aircraft controls, and maneuvering flight. The course will focus on career skills related to these topics. The second course here is aircraft systems and performance. In aircraft systems and performance course, the students in the UAS and pilot tracks will take an in-depth look at the systems that make crewed and uncrewed aircraft work. Beginning with aircraft power plants and fuel systems, students will learn about the options available and how they will affect aircraft design and performance. These are half-year courses each. The Math Foundations course rationale, well, after looking into our double period of math, we feel that we need to reassess that idea. And we are going to take the double period for 7th and 8th grade and reconfigure to include skills review from 6th grade, cover math topics that do not build upon topics that will be taught concurrently in math 7 and 8, and infuse character ed as well. So we're taking a little different approach. Bear with me 1 second. Where am I? So as you can see here, the description for some of the items that are in our budget are new biology books, new foreign language, which is going to be Spanish. Business, we're taking the business for the junior, senior high school, adding G Suite and digital citizenship, senior high school computer tech and literacy. Vocation initiative, we have a new initiative in place for 15 students that show an interest that we're going to have shared school time with Universal Technical Institute for 15 students, as well as we're adding 3 more to Eastwick, Hohokus, we have 4, and Paramus Voc, we have 4. Also, more curriculum initiatives include Elevate, our new science program, which is from Savvis, and it works nicely with our math. And there are some other examples in here. Added superintendent initiatives include increase the Meadowlands Environmental Program. I'm currently looking into taking, again, more Meadowlands experiences for our students and PD training for our staff. Again, math and science is a big thing for us. We're concerned with SEL and PBIS, which stands for Positive Behavior Interventions and Support, Mental Health, Introduction to the Flight, which is the semester 1, and Aircraft Systems, which is semester 2. Next slide, please. Here you'll see, these are actually from clippings from the northjersey.com, I believe, that I scooped them up from our successful Meadowlands Environmental Center, and we're going to continue and expand this summer with that and into the fall again. Next slide. Oh, here we go. Okay, I got it. You want to take it? Okay, she wants me to take it. All right. So what you'll see in the top section are the vacancies that were in our preliminary budget that remain in the budget. They are positions that have not been filled. And the bottom is for new positions for 23-24. You'll see an interventionist for math or reading. And I would like to have more input from our administrators as to which direction do we want to go to. We know that reading is instrumental in being able to do calculations because of math problems that are written math problems with language. So we do have a reading specialist, an interventionist, but I'm just not quite sure if we want to add a second one or have the math. The universal pre-K, that's either a supervisor or a coordinator. Inclusion teachers, again, we're trying to keep students in the least restricted environment, and 2 teacher aides. I'm going to handle this. All right, so here we have some district level items that are technology based. Crowd, Strike, Falcon, Complete. Nancy, if you miss that, can you remind me which one that is? Crowd, Strike, Falcon, Complete. Security, right? It's more about security? Yeah. Antivirus. Okay, thank you. So teacher devices, it's time to refresh. We do this annually with different groups, as well as 5th and 9th grade. Again, it recurs annually. The lab refresh, classroom audio upgrades. We're always looking for security with our cameras, bus security upgrades, password protection, patch management, very tech savvy things that are going on here. And Google grade transfer. This is something that staff members have asked for, and we're looking into that, and we have that budgeted. Itopia is for the middle school, high school with Adobe integration with our Chromebooks. So we spoke about the ROD grants, and you will see here that we have several items that are out asking for funding. We have to have 60% has to be within our budget, and 40% is what we will be granted if our requests are approved. So these are them. And if you see the asterisk, you'll see that Lincoln Cafeteria, the HVAC upgrade, and 98 Central, the roof replacement. That is going to be in our long-range facility plan. So I just wanted to make an extra little note there that you can see that. The cargo van, we've been trying to get that for several years now. They just are not in stock, hard to come by. Next slide. These are, again, current and prior year projects that are going to lead into our summer. Next slide. And again, I have to share my passion for the fine performing and practical arts. We have to show what our future is going to look like here, starting in June, our culinary arts. And the next slide you'll see is our science labs. Next slide. So the breakout of the increased state aid. PY stands for prior year, CY is current year, FY is future year. Okay, next slide.
I'm sorry.
Oh.
Go back to that.
Sure. So here you'll see the tax, am I on the right side? Yeah, tax impact. How does the proposed school budget impact the current expense tax rate? As Ms. Lycone explained, we are at a 1.68%. The average home, now this is the average home in Richville Park, is 404. And when we speak of the average home, what would the average home be assessed at? 7,000 and change. Again, this may not reflect what you actually have, but this is what we get these numbers from, I believe, the municipal building. This is an increase over prior year of $246.63, which equates to $20.55 a month. Again, this is on the average house. This is not everyone's house. And these numbers come to us from the town. Next, please. So here you'll see that we have our general operating budget is 57 million and change. Special revenue fund, these are things that come our way from, example, the safety grant that gets filled out, we get $15,000. We get ESA title grants, IDEA, and then you'll see the last one here is the PEA, which is our preschool. And when you add them together, that's what our total revenue. Next slide. And once again, our capital outlay is general funds. It's not part of capital reserve. And there you go. Last slide. And that's our budget presentation.
I'd like to open it up to the board members. Have any questions?
I have a couple. The equalization aid going up by 1.8 million. Is the intent of that aid to offset tax increases? Because my understanding was the state gives us that, recognizing that our property taxes exceed that of other communities. So I'm just curious, the 1.8 million there, but yet we're also increasing the tax levy by 1.7%.
If I may comment on that, please. Yes, the equalization aid is money from the state to address the cost of operating a school, which definitely has an impact on the schools, definitely on the schools. But that money is not earmarked directly to tax relief. It's earmarked to give state aid to the schools so that they still have to provide an education to our children and to keep the rest of the budget intact. So with that money, they enabled the district to put a budget together that caused a tax increase of I forget the exact number, 1.36% increase, as opposed to something higher.
Right, I think it was 168, or that's
Okay,
what was in
168,
here. At what point, Mr. Egan, do we have to certify to the county what the tax increase is going to be for the school portion? Because as we went through this, it's a $57 million budget with the PEA grant of 1.1 million. And this is the extent of the information that the board has received on the programs that are being funded. And, you know, by large chunks, what the income and expense are for those different programs. So quite honestly, I don't feel like I'm educated enough on the budget and what we're spending our money on. So I'm curious when we have to actually finalize what that tax levy is to the county.
Okay, I don't have the exact date on that in front of me, but the issue is, to understand is that the county business administrator, the county superintendent reviewed the budget as submitted, and they approved it. And there's a lot of flexibility in the budget because there's things that will impact the budget that have not approved yet. Like for instance, that as part of the presentation was the ROD grants, that we had to reserve money to fund them if they're granted. If we don't get that, we have to have to qualify for the grant. Doesn't mean we're going to get the grant. So that makes it an item that's fluid within the budget. The thing that
I understand that, and I
Okay,
guess
but the thing
my
that
call out.
the thing that the board should recognize is that this, as this was approved, it's never going to be exceeded that. We have an approved budget by the county. If you have questions about, you want to make changes, you want to reduce expenditures, I don't have that in front of me what that exact date is. But the thing is that you should take some understanding that the county approved this.
I understand that the county approved it, and my understanding is that means that our income and our expenses balance, and they followed the rules to put it together. My call out is that in our last finance committee meeting, which was months ago, we requested from the administration some big programs that happened to understand what the income and expense is so that we knew where this $57 million was going. We did not get that before the preliminary hearing, and we did not have a meeting before the final presentation today. This is the first time that we're seeing it.
So I'm sorry, I'm missing something.
You're missing the point of the budget was provided to us to say it's $57 million with a 1.68% tax increase. It balances, and trust us on where it's being spent. And the board historically has been asked to trust on where things are being spent, and that's why we have a state monitor.
I would just add to that undoubtedly, I haven't checked the fact, but I would guess that when our district got into trouble, we also had a budget that had been approved by the county.
Okay, listen,
So
I'm
it's not really reassuring to know
Okay.
that the county approved it.
I'm not looking to argue with you. I'm just providing that this is my thoughts about this budget. It's up to the board and I don't have that date as to when the final decision has to be made. But if the board wants to vote and reject it, so be it. Then then we can go back again and you can if you're not satisfied as to where the money is being spent and what money is being reserved to go forward, that's up to you. If you want to do that, we can go back and you can take upon yourself where you want to recommend cuts or,
I think, Mr. Egan, the comment is we cannot recommend where we want cuts or where we want further investments because this is extremely high level. We saw it tonight. We were provided with the budget worksheet, which is 112 pages. 112 pages is not the role of the board to make heads or tails of. And the summary information that we requested through the finance committee has yet to be provided.
So what I'm hearing from you is, and it's your authority and your position, if because if you feel that you have lack of information, you want to reject it, you reject it. And we can move forward. And then we can see what impact that will have on this district with that. And yes, you're right. If you think you don't have enough information and you have no faith in what the administration is telling you, fine.
The administration hasn't given us the summaries. If we approve this budget, what assurance do we have? And you were on that finance committee meeting when we spoke about it and said we needed in big blocks. I'm not looking for 112 pages and every $10,000 that we spend. We're talking about a $57 million budget. I'm asking for the major components and what are we spending and where are we increasing or decreasing them to provide a great education to the students of this district. That's what I'm asking for. And if we pass this budget tonight, this board still needs that information because as everyone and Dr. Bender said, and you continue to say, the budget is fluid. Well, it's only fluid if we can understand it. And today, I don't understand where we're spending our money.
Okay, and I hear what you're saying, but as far as being fluid, the one bottom line is the budget cannot be increased. Whether you approve the budget or not, if you approve the budget, that spending can't be increased. If there's a bottom line, so the tax rate will be the 1.68. If you need to know additional information about every line item, where it's all going to be spent, and to build your own security on it, that's fine. Do what you got to do. The thing is that in most districts there is a confidence or respect in the administration that what they're putting together. If you don't think that you're not satisfied with that, you need to know additional information, then you vote to reject the budget. That's up to you guys. All I know is I'm trying to tell you is this is a good budget for this district, my personal opinion, and we'll take it one step at a time to show that this board has respect to the administration. But
I don't think this is a question about respect for the administration. Have you seen then, Mr. Egan, the big buckets
yes,
of?
yes. So did the county. The budget came in approved by the county that it's a budget that maximize how much taxes are going to be raised and all the money that's going to be available to the district. But once again,
And I'm saying that I don't have, I believe that the accounting for the budget is accurate and that the inflows and outflows make sense and that the different grants would be assigned correctly. What I don't understand are some of the bigger groupings of expenditures and how much different components cost, like a P&L kind of view, right? And I'm going to relate it to something that I do for a living. When we look at the logistics part of our operation, we look at all of the expense and the income it generates, and the same from a sales perspective. And from what we're doing on this budget, 57 million in, 57 million out, what does the special ed component look like? What does general ed component look like? What are we putting into some of our bigger initiatives that we have? What are we doing on the transportation front? What are we doing on the capital programs that we have? That's what I'm asking for. I'm not asking for every dollar. I'm asking for big, fat, round numbers to say, yeah, this is great. And then the trust that those big, fat, round numbers were put together correctly all the way down to the penny, that I have 100% faith in. But I still would like to see the big, fat, round numbers.
I can just,
Can I jump in here a second, if I may?
add, Mr. Vitrus.
I'm sorry. So if I can just, I mean, listen, we're talking about fund accounting, right? So you're given a budget, to your point, and you know, you have a bucket of money, it's 57 million. And I think that, you know, from what is being said here, you haven't had any meetings in quite some time. But I think that, you know, to what Ms. McNeil's saying is that maybe, and I haven't been a part of the process, but you may want to look at something like a variance explanation, right? So you take the bridge from where we are actual in 2022 to bridge 2022, 2023 to bridge to 2023, 2024. Take where we're actual to budget in the current year and bridge it to where we are for next year's budget and see where the variances are. And see if we, you know, if it's somewhere between 1% and 2% difference year over year, then that seems somewhat reasonable. If we see a difference of 10 to 15% year over year, why? And drill down into those numbers and then start to see where if there's a big variance, why is there a big variance? If the variance is somewhere within 2% or 3%, then maybe we're not looking at that number. But if we see that, you know, salaries are jumping 10%, then we're drilling down on that number. If benefits are going up 15%, we're looking at that. If transportation's going up 40%, we're looking at that. To look at $57 million as one number, it's hard to look at. But if you're looking at comparatively year over year, and then looking at, to your point, the buckets, you have to kind of like break it down and look at it. And you can't look at $57 million as one number. You have to look at it comparatively. I think the way that we need to look at it here, without having many meetings, is look at it from where we are currently this year and where we're trying to finish the year out, and comparatively where we're going to be next year, and bridge this year to next year and see where the variances are going to be year over year. That's the only way we can look at it at this point. And if we see big variances, anything over CPI or 2 or 3%, why are those numbers going up? And that's where the board needs to maybe look at and start asking the questions. But to look at over 57 million, say, why is it, where the difference is, you're never going to be able to figure it out. So I think, you know, if we're going to ask questions, maybe look at it along those lines. I mean, it's just a suggestion.
I can just jump in here for a second. I think what was missing, what has been missing, from what I'm hearing from Trustee McNeil and having spoken to most of the board members is, you know, we didn't have a finance meeting prior to this budget, and certain documents did not get to the board in time for us to ask the typical questions that we ask. And so I don't think we're in a position to be for or against this budget, because we're still in the dark about some of the questions. I did want to pivot a little bit and ask the other board members if you have specific questions.
Mr. President, do you mind?
Yes, go ahead.
I just wanted to, if you don't mind, I just want to answer Board Member McNeil's question. She asked the deadline. So the statutory deadline of this year for your budget is May 15th. You're required to have a hearing by, I'm just looking at the state's website, May 8th is your dates. Again, I don't want that to impact what you do tonight, but the question was asked and I at least wanted to share that information with the board.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I guess the better question is, if we're having a meeting tonight to talk about this, why wasn't there a finance meeting before this meeting? Isn't that a better question? Isn't that a meeting, like, we could have had this meeting next Wednesday and had another meeting prior to this. It's probably would have been better served to have another meeting if this is the feeling of a lot of people on the board, right? If trustee McNeil has these questions, wouldn't it behoove us to have a meeting prior to this meeting? So that we're not we used to have some of these questions answered. We don't even have the finance chair here. I don't know. Frustrating.
I would ask, I'm not certain, in the presentation, we're seeing the introduction to flight and aircraft systems and math foundations. But these are existing programs, correct?
No, those are part of the program, and now we're expanding into the second year. Right, this is part of the aviation program.
Math foundations is
No,
as
not the
well?
math foundations. No, not the math foundations. The other, the aviation is separate. Math foundations is just changing. We're taking it, there's not going to require another teacher. It's taking one class, the double period, and transferring it over into this because the double period of math was not, in my opinion, and I understand in the administration's opinion, it's not working. It's not improving the math skills.
But
So the cost is
I
within
guess,
the budget.
okay, so, but I guess I'm confused on the aviation. That's a program that we've had in district, no? We've seen, they've come and
Now we're in the
presented.
second level. We're adding those, the extra, we're one step above now.
So we're buying more equipment.
No, no more equipment. Now we're just,
So it's within the same budget.
it's within the same budget,
Same with the math foundations is,
within the budget.
I have two questions. My first question is, I noticed that there was an elementary science new curriculum being a little bit Envision, I believe was the name of it for the elementary schools. Can you talk a little bit about the process of how we vet new programs? What's the cycle? Do you have a specific cycle with regards to
So,
purchasing
Let
new
me see if I
programs?
can answer some of that because this was started. From what I understand, there was a committee and the committee reviewed several different programs. It's a program. And we have a science facilitator, a consultant that comes, and Judith, I'm at a loss for her name. Turner, yes, thank you. And she has been working with the administration, and that's how they came up with this particular program.
The district itself, though, how is it? Are we on a 5-year cycle, a 3-year cycle? When does the district make the determination that it's time for a new program in each of the curricular areas?
Because the former program that we were using they found to be ineffective. I wasn't part of that initial conversation because it was.
My next question is about the elementary science coach was in the existing budget. Can you talk a little bit about what that role would be and why we need a science coach in the district?
So again, I had different vision. I had it as one position, a math science coach, and then apparently somewhere along the way it changed, and that's still in the budget.
You intend on keeping it there or are you going?
It's in the budget right now, but again, being that our budget has to have wiggle room, that may be one of the positions that may have to be considered to come off the table if we find that in the next couple of weeks that something has to be addressed.
And the other personnel that you presented at the preliminary budget, the human resources coordinator, the medical health science teachers, 3 high school special ed teachers, a speech teacher. I don't know what else. Are included in this budget or not included in this budget?
No, they are not included in the budget because that was a wish list. The preliminary is part of a wish list, and those are not included in the budget. There are some other staff members that are in our They service our schools, but they're being paid out of grant money.
I have a quick question. The open positions, are they in the budget or they haven't been budgeted for?
They have remained in the budget.
Okay, so there's no plans to fill those positions.
There's a plan to fill them if we're going to move forward with them.
So
I
these
have,
are-
I have one more question about the interventionist. So that would be one, is that for elementary schools or? And that would
Yes.
be one person for 4 schools?
3 schools.
3 schools, I'm sorry. And how will you determine whether or not it would be a math or a reading person?
Again, that's going to be a conversation that's going to be had. I would like some input from administration to see what they feel. We have a language arts now.
She's only part-time, correct? Like, our coach is
Um,
part-time, correct? Our literacy coach is
Our
Cheryl
literacy
Littleberry?
coach is
Okay.
part-time, correct.
I'm just thinking about our reading scores are not particularly good. And I would think that we would probably be better suited investing our money in an additional literacy coach as opposed to a science coach, considering that our test scores are poor. Just something that I thought should discuss.
A valid point.
That's been a quick question. I think you answered it, but I didn't catch it. These new positions are, some of them are vacancies, and then you have a couple of new positions.
The top portion are current, have been in the budget, continuing to be in the budget, have not been filled. The bottom are new positions.
Okay, so you're only proposing 1, 2, 3, 4 new positions.
And there is actually a possibility that when we look into the grants, that some of those salaries may actually be subsidized by grant funding.
By grants.
And if there's more grant funding, we might actually be able to increase and go back to adding more.
Thank you. I think, needless to say, regardless of what, how the board votes today, I think it would behoove us all to have a finance meeting, a nice robust finance meeting where we're not butted up against another meeting to answer some of these questions and to be more settled, I think.
It's important to understand what makes up the budget, right? I mean, this is very top line. And like Diane, I feel like, I want to see more of the details. I'm not against the budget, but I want to know what makes up this budget. Not everything, because a lot of it I won't even understand, but the bulk of it, especially like the big ticketed items.
Having this document full prior to the presentation. I mean, I agree with trustee McNeil that 112 document was overwhelming. And just, I think, more information beforehand, I think, to digest so that we can gather our questions and have some time to digest it a bit would have been helpful.
So it's coming to my attention that you did not receive the user-friendly budget. And the 112-page document is a typical packet that comes to the board. That's what I received as a board member, but I'm looking at, I think it would be important for you to have the user-friendly budget because I think that will help make more sense. I'm disappointed that you didn't get it.
When are we going to get it?
We can send that out tomorrow. Can you get?
Yes.
Yes.
So just to be clear, so that existed, it just didn't get to us. Did it exist before today or?
As soon as the county approved it, we were allowed to share it. But I do not know why you didn't receive it.
When was it approved by the county?
Last Monday? Last Monday?
Sometime last week.
I mean, I think that would have answered a lot of our questions and tonight would have gone a lot smoother had we had that.
Correct me if I'm wrong, and because this is could be a technical issue, but then when the county approved it and we received that, it was publicized. And which
To
was,
whom?
which was the union, the, what do you call it? The whole budget was printed in the record.
So you expect the
But we-
board to read the record to find a budget as opposed to it being delivered to us?
No, I'm sorry. I'm trying to give you extra work to do, but we weren't withholding anything. The user-free, friendly budget was published in the record. And I thought, as Nancy did too, that was sent home to you guys. So
It was
we
not,
weren't
and
trying to withhold anything, and I totally understand. You want to ask these questions. I just want to reiterate to you that what the amount of money that the state approved for the district to raise is there. It's not final. You want to have a meeting, that's fine, and get you all the information you want, and then if whatever changes you try and make, or will make, or decide to make, we'll continue this this process, and we have it until, as David Disler said, it has to be done by the end of May. So whatever you guys vote, it'll be fine. But my recommendation to you is that there won't be any major changes because it's limited to what the amount of money that we're going to raise by tax.
Mr. Disler?
Yes.
Mr. Disler, question for you. If this were not to be put through or voted through tonight or postponed, would that be a problem?
So there's different ways the board, right? So the board can vote tonight. They can vote to approve it or reject it. If they reject it, they have to propose a new budget. You can vote to table it, obviously, if you'd like, and then hold either vote on your next meeting or hold a special meeting. So you don't have to vote if you don't want to tonight, right? You can table it, or you can vote to approve or reject it depending on the board's comfort level. If it rejects it, you still have a statutory deadline of that May 15th to work on a new budget. Right, you still need a budget to approve. This one's approved by the county, so keep that in mind. But I understand that the issue is not the budget here, but the information that appears from the discussion.
And if it were to be postponed, is tonight's public hearing considered the public hearing, or do we have to have a special meeting before the 8th to have a new public hearing?
Excellent question. So assuming that you're going to be voting on the same budget, you do not have to hold the public hearing and the vote in the same meeting. Right, so you could have the public hearing tonight, then as long as it's the same budget with no changes, you can vote on it at a meeting as long as the board passes it before May 15th.
But if it were to change at all, then we would have to have another meeting before the 8th to have another hearing.
Correct.
You know, I'll just comment as we kind of deliberate amongst ourselves. Having spoken to just about every board member today and the administration, the hesitancy, in my opinion, the board members are welcome to disagree. The hesitancy is the fact that we have a state monitor, that we're not the state monitor per se, but the fact that boards before us approved budgets without doing enough of the due diligence, and counties approved our budgets without doing enough of their due diligence. And, you know, we're just a little bit afraid. And I think, you know, now knowing that there was a user-friendly budget that we could have sat on and that could have yielded questions, I think is a bit, you know, as you said, Dr. Bender, very disappointing. So I don't know. If someone wants.
Mr. President, there's just one comment that I should say is, in the past here, there were a lot of issues in Richfield Park. And yes, they submitted budgets that were approved by the county in advance. And then it came down, the issues that came up was the district overspent the budget. And created a deficit, and that's why one of the reasons, a state monitor was approved. But if the previous board and administration would have stayed within the budget limits, maybe switching money around, spending it on A instead of B, this district would have been fine. The thing was, the state approved what the board and the district requested, and the district overspent it. And that was the reason here. So what you have here now, and not just the original monitor, and now myself, we were together with, you can't overspend the budget. You can fight about where you're going to spend the money on it, but you can't overspend the budget. So I just want to do that for clarification. Whatever the board wants to do, I'm not going to interfere with that. If they need more information, yes, they should have more information. I got no problem with that. But I just want you all to realize that whatever budget is approved by the county, and if it's changed now and it gets reaffirmed, we cannot overspend the budget. And as long as we don't overspend the budget, financially we'll be okay. And for us to accomplish that, we have, in my opinion, the administration has to work with the board. So.
Thank you for that clarification.
Okay.
What other junctures will the board have to approve or disapprove of certain projects or initiatives?
Let me see if I understand your question. When, how, why would you be able to change items around? Anytime. In other words, if we approve the budget and we come back and we discuss, we've allotted X amount of dollars for this, we've allotted X amount of dollars for that, the curriculum line has so much money for X, Y, and Z, and we have conversation and the board says, well, I think we don't need to replace our social studies, our biology, our whatever. We say, okay, well, that was allotted X amount of dollars. And we pull it and we put the money somewhere else. Because again, going back, there is fluidity to a budget where it's like a personal budget. We're going to spend more money going out to dinner this month, and next month we got to pull back a little bit because we can't. So there's plenty of opportunity for movement within the budget. We can look at our personnel that we have. Are we going to be able to have some of that funded through grant money? Well, there you go. There's some more money that we've just gained in our budget, and we can put it somewhere else. So there's opportunity in the future to come back and make changes as, the board collaboratively together, we come up with some maybe better plans. Unfortunately, I feel that we've been in a little bit of a loss with the instability in our district. So I'm having, to take the bull by the horns here on a budget that I want to be successful, and I want to make sure it's successful.
I think we agree. We want it to be successful as well. We want to work collaboratively with anyone, with you and your team. But I just think there's a feeling of angst because of the lack of information. And I feel like I'm not comfortable taking a vote on something that I'm not informed on. And I understand that my role as a board member, I shouldn't know line by line, budget item by budget item. But I do agree that I don't feel confident that I have enough information to make an informed vote tonight.
And Ms. Kraft, just to confirm, I feel that there clearly has been a breakdown of communication. I recognize that. Okay. I just want to verify, validate that what you're feeling, I understand, but I'm a little bit out of a loss myself.
So do we have any other questions, comments?
Just one last comment, because I hear the concerns of the board with. I'm disappointed too that they don't have all the information that they had, but if they're uncomfortable with this, maybe there should be a resolution just to table this and we do it at a special meeting. This way giving additional information to those members of the board that which are uncomfortable. Just a suggestion.
Thank you for that, Mr. Egan. So we have a couple of minutes to think about that. We should probably move on to the state monitor's report.
State Monitor's report. We have enough money, obviously, to get through the end of the year. We have, as mentioned previously with some of the board members' reports, we're moving forward with crossing the T's and dotting the I's to expand the early childhood program. And we have the 2 locations, and I'll be with myself or another administrator going on May 5th to have the state inspector come in to make sure that the facilities are correct. We're also looking forward to going other programs. I'm investigating for the district to increase our new academic programs. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Monitor. We're going to move on to hearing on citizens' comments. Do we have a sign-up sheet? Berlinda's not here to read the statement. However, oh wait, do we have the statement? No. Trustee Orth, would you like to read it? You found it?
For tonight's meeting, there will be 2 public comment sessions, one on agenda and one off agenda item. There's a sign-up sheet on the podium. We'll call your name in the order that you sign in. Each member of the public will have 5 minutes to speak during each comment period. Time cannot be transferred to other individuals. The public comment period will be 1 hour for on-agenda items and 1 hour for non-agenda items. The board will now entertain public comments. Please remember to state your name, Ridgehill Park mailing address, and keep your comments brief to allow sufficient time for other members of the public to speak if they wish. Thank you for cooperation and support.
Thank you. Nice job. Mr. Duran?
Good evening.
Good evening.
Donna Duran, 16 Sabina Street, Little Ferry. On resolution 1,
Is there a microphone on?
no. How about now? Better? Okay. On resolution 1104, busing overtime, all the bus drivers are on salary, correct? Hello? Oh, okay.
Some of them are part-time, right?
No, you
Part-time
have.
bus drivers are hourly. Is that what your question was? I'm
No, what
sorry,
I
Ms.
asked
Duran.
was, I was at a meeting where a large percentage of the bus drivers went on salary, so that they wouldn't go over the hours, they would get paid health benefits.
So we
That's
do
what I'm
have,
asking.
we do have 3 full-time bus drivers and other part-time drivers.
Okay, so I see that there's overtime. So the overtime would be for not, is it for the salary bus drivers? Because once you hit overtime, you have to go to the overtime pay, correct? So is it for the?
So we have sports that takes up most of the overtime.
I see that. It's athletics, okay? But you have an other, 230781, the other. I'm on a resolution 1104, busing overtime.
I don't have that answer for you, but I can get it for you.
Okay. All right, now we're going to go to resolution 1304. Let me know when you get there.
Yes,
Ready? Okay, we're hiring a bus coordinator at $95,000, correct? Okay, the previous bus coordinator made a ballpark change of a salary of $82,000. Ballpark, I would assume. So we're hiring a bus coordinator for $95,000. Does that include his overtime when he does the athletic runs?
The original busing coordinator, if I heard you correctly, you said made 82, he was 87.5.
Okay,
Similar.
Sure.
The new busing coordinator that we have here also drives, has the CDL license is appropriate for a large bus. So with that being said, there's a difference in and has to have those licenses as well, according to the new
yes, but you did not answer my question. What I said to you was the $95,000. That's his salary to be bus coordinator.
Correct.
Correct? Okay, so now when
and
he-
driver.
Yes, but when he goes to do the bus, to do the athletics, that brings him overtime and he would be paid overtime pay, correct?
Correct.
Correct, Mr. President?
I would imagine if he goes over 40 hours, we have to pay him overtime.
Yes, so he's been a bus driver for quite some time. So then that makes him at a very high level of a rate of overtime pay, which probably could be $65 an hour, ballpark, correct? So this bus coordinator could make a salary well over $100,000. You're paying Ms. Steeman $104,000. He could make as far as well over $100,000.
He
Right?
could,
Oh, he
according to
could.
your calculations, but someone's got to get the overtime, right? Someone has to do the
I
drives, the runs.
understand that,
Yeah.
but in the past, there were people that would come up here and say that the past previous bus coordinator was getting too much money doing this, doing that. You've got to look at this again. The $95,000, I understand, okay, he's a bus driver. He was the bus driver when both my daughters were in school. Love him dearly. It's not that, okay? It's just that he could well over make $120,000. You should really look into that and work the figures. And also the monitor should really look into it. That's a lot of money.
What, if I can just comment real quick, I think we're putting certain safeguards in place, including technology, that is going to make sure that our routes are where they're supposed to be and that people are working when they're supposed to be working. And so when you say, take a look at it, this will be looked at. Busing is now
What
on the
does
radar.
technology have to do with the bus coordinator's salary or something like that?
It allows you to track to make sure that people are working when they're actually working.
Excuse me?
It allows you to make sure that people are working when they're actually working.
That still has nothing to do with the point that I'm trying to get across. What I'm saying is he's getting $95,000. Okay, when he does the athletic runs,
Mhm.
he has been a bus driver for a very long time of years. So he will be at the higher rate, which could be $65 an hour, which if you do the calculations, he could make well over $120,000. Some of your administrators don't even make that much money.
So I don't know if you want, I mean, the other thing I would say is that if he earns over $120,000, then he'll be paid over $120,000. But the key emphasis is not how much he makes, but how much he earns. If he's working as the busing coordinator and he earns X amount of money, then he should be paid for
The
it.
busing coordinator, he's getting paid $95,000. That is not you're misunderstanding what I'm saying. He's getting paid $95,000. He's going to do the athletic runs.
He may
Okay.
have to at times, yes.
When he does the athletic runs, he's going to get paid a high amount of salary. So he's going to go well over $100,000, which, as I said, look into it. Your administrators, some of your administrators don't even make that much money.
So
We should think about this beforehand.
So what I will charge the BA who's not here,
Of course.
or it's on the board's radar, what you're saying, is that in all likelihood, that individual who gets paid the most should probably be the last resort for overtime. Right?
No, you just told me
Who's-
you
Who's gonna
just,
do it then?
you just told me you have 3 full-time bus drivers.
We need
Okay.
overtime, it should be the other two guys, because they make less.
Okay. So it still doesn't make any sense. In the past, I've been at meetings where everybody would come up and destroy the previous bus coordinator that he was getting paid too much money. You basically have to look at this, really look at this. He can make well over $120,000. I did the calculations.
Well, I understand he'd be doing 2 jobs. He'd be the busing coordinator and providing a service by driving the bus,
That's
right? That's in addition to his responsibilities. So in essence, he's doing the job of 2 people.
And he's getting paid $95,000 when the previous bus coordinator got $87,000. And you have 3, you did not have your bus drivers full-time with benefits when the previous bus coordinator was here. So that's limited him also.
So,
I'm not.
That- if I can just say, yes, point of order, we hear you.
Thank you.
Please email me with more details.
Sure.
We will look into it. We're not looking to give away money to miss
Okay.
giveaway, so thank you.
I have one more question concerning the budget. Where's the BA?
The BA is out right now,
Okay, thank you.
but she was very integral in putting together the budget, but she's
Put
out
it
today.
together, but I feel bad for all of you board members that you did not get the information. It just doesn't look right. It sends a bad message.
Agreed. Thank you. Mr. Rafferty? Mr. Rafferty? Yes.
You're scared him away. Not you personally.
I'm not that scary.
There's a lot to address. I'm just gonna say something about the busing coordinator, because Jody, you're right. It was 87.5 for a busing coordinator who did not drive a bus, and then $50,000 for the driver. So in fact is, for the coordinating part, he's getting paid $45,000, which is about half the prior salary. Whether that's a lot or a little, or the people involved, because it is one thing you could do is don't give him any overtime. You know, he just won't be on the overtime route. Being coordinator would be enough. Just a suggestion. Okay, on the budget, I did like tonight's presentation because it was plain English and it talked about the things we're going to do and what we're keeping, et cetera. Unfortunately, in the past, we get that 112-page document, which is worse than getting a root canal, trying to go through it and understand everything that's in it. And during our worst financial time, for a little quick history, we got 11 of those in 8 weeks, 11 changes. So by the time the board voted on it, who knows what? But you do have the option of tabling it rather than rejecting it. You don't want to go to the deadline to reject it, because you will get a call from the county superintendent who will tell you that you will pass this budget in total, or you run the risk of losing state aid, if I'm not mistaken. So great, we had this budget, which was nice for a public presentation, and we have the very, very detailed budget with which the board, it's painful to go through. And in many cases, it's hard to understand. I agree with Mr. Feitros. We have nothing to compare it to. Having a side-by-side of this year's actual, as we see it at this point, and maybe this year's budget as it was budgeted to the budget next year. This way you can look at where the swings are and where the big percentage things change. And then highlight, we're saving money this year in a summary because we're cutting this, and this. We're spending money this year because we're adding this, and this for this reason. And if that's presented, there should have been a finance meeting. I'm not talking like I know everything. I was making some suggestions that maybe would be helpful, that you have a finance meeting, you table it, and you come back with a working copy that everybody can understand, and we'll give you an outline of what's changing. You want to buy department, you want to buy athletics, you want to buy whatever you want to buy. It can be pulled. But that I think will help you a lot. And, you know, this 30,000 feet look is good for the public. The 112-page document, God bless you on that. And I hope that in some way helps. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Santos. Mr. Rafferty, are you ready now? Address, please.
First off, it is very refreshing to see the board have all the questions about where the taxpayers' money is going and where our children are going, okay? Very refreshing. Instead of names pointing, the whole goddamn bit, everything is working. All the new people we have voted to bring on to the ed, everything is starting to come together. I don't put budgets together, so when I had to go to high-level budget meetings, which I did once in a while, my boss had a cheat sheet for everybody, and this is only a suggestion. 10% special education, 40% education, 20% trans, just like that. And then you could backlog, you could look at each area and go back and saying, why are we spending this amount of money on that? But I do stand behind you 100% for asking the magic question, where are we spending our money? Thank you, Ms. McNeil. We need more of that, okay? We don't mind spending the money and we don't mind voting on it. But we need to know what the hell we're voting on. Okay, that's the only way we're gonna move forward. And we need more questions like that. And it's up to our state monitor to give us the answers. I would suggest that you pack up the budget, set a date, sit right here in front of the board, let them ask you questions, backtrack into the budget and say, well, here is what we're spending here, there. Everybody's there. Everybody's on the same page, okay? So please keep up the good work. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Rafferty. Mr. Santos?
Susan DeSantis, 15 Homestead. The busing security upgrades, does that mean that we're going to finally get the GPS and the cameras?
Yes.
Good. Secondly, on the budget, you should be calling special meetings to get all this settled before tonight. And this meeting, if it was the public hearing on the budget, it should have been advertised as such, because this was not advertised as a public budget hearing. So I think you should do it again. Okay. 1304. Mr. Green being appointed as busing coordinator. I think that's fantastic. I hear nothing about anything but what a great job he's doing. 1001 long-range facility plan amendment. What, it's minor amendment to the long-range facility plan. What are the minor adjustments? (1101), page 417.
1001? Long-range facility plan adjustment?
I'm sorry, what?
Is it 1001? Long-range facility plan
Yeah,
adjustment?
1001.
There's a note here that the only projects that were added were the Lincoln HVAC upgrades in the cafeteria and the roof replacement at 98 Central. The other ROD grant projects, sorry, were already on the RLFP.
Okay. And 1302. Dr. Barry Haynes' retirement. I can't go without saying that this is the best choice he could have made and a gift to every educational district in this state. Glad to see it.
Thank you, Mr. Santos. Do we have anybody to elevate? Please.
Hello,
Ms.
can you
Ramos?
hear me?
Yep, we can hear
Yes,
you.
hi. How are you? Good evening.
Address, please.
382 T Negro.
Good evening, go ahead.
Yes. I just wanted to quickly comment on this just because I feel that if someone's going to be sent in to question our by people to try to prove a point, did a good job in proving a good point, which they didn't. The busing coordinator seems to have many years under their belt, and with that, he also has the proper credentials and licenses that the previous one apparently didn't have. He's also has to be working and the coordinating, those two jobs in one, and that in itself is going to be funny. And as for the overtime, it is for me, and the calculation will work for anyone, that this overtime would be giving to the part-time drivers who do not accumulate as many hours. Anyway, other than that, that's all I have to say about that. But I do want to go back to the budget. I feel like we've been discussing this for many, many months. And it's frustrating, I can imagine, to hear that we still don't have the proper details getting to the board so they can make a properly vote on it. But I do know that a budget can be condensed in a manner where everyone can understand. If you're not in the field of finance, this can be overwhelming information, but this is certainly something that could be condensed and brought down to simplify in a way that everyone can understand. And I don't understand exactly why this hasn't been done. I'm a little confused as to who exactly is involved. Is it the BA? Is it Mr. Gomes? Is it Dr. Bender? I mean, I know she just came back, so I mean, can someone tell me exactly? I know Mr. Gomes is on the finance committee. Who else is on there? Is it just Mr. Gomes?
No, on the finance committees, Ms. McNeil.
I would like to answer that because, yes, I am on the finance committee.
Hold on, I can't hear
When you look at the responsibility of the board, it is to oversee the district and ensure it is well-run. It is the CSA's responsibility to run the district.
I'm sorry,
That is the only person that reports to the board.
Can you repeat that because I can't hear my so off? I'm sorry,
Sure.
can you repeat that?
I am on the finance committee. Bernard Gomes is the chair. He did request finance committee meetings. They were not set up. The board's responsibility is not to create the budget. It is to oversee what the administration is doing. And the only person on the administration that reports to the Board of Education is the CSA.
Got it. So after next meeting,
Ms. Ramos, your connection is really, really bad. And getting worse.
Can you hear me better?
We really can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Is it? I'm sorry, Ms. Ramos.
Can
If you
you
could
hear
just
me better now?
a little bit better, yeah.
I'm sorry about that. Is it good?
Gotta upgrade your data plan. Yeah, if you maybe log out and log back in.
Is that better? Can you hear me better?
Yes, a little bit, go ahead. Can you take off Wi-Fi and use your data plan? It's a good time for a Verizon commercial.
Sorry, guys. Are you able to hear me or?
Yes,
no?
perfect.
Okay, I'm so sorry. I don't know if my whole conversation was that way. I hope you were able to hear me. Again, yes, it's frustrating to hear about that. I heard Ms. Kraft say about Little Stars going to be one of the locations for the pre-K. When was that decided? I wasn't, I haven't been around for a while, so I have a little bit of catching up to do.
Yeah, I think last year, that was one of the sites that was looked at. And Mr. Egan has also taken visits to that program. And so they
Okay.
are one of the sites that was awarded a contract.
Okay, that's good. That's good to hear. There was one other, so now with Mr. Haynes, Dr. Haynes' departure, who will be overseeing the pre-K?
The director of curriculum will be an open position, as will the pre-K supervisor. At the present moment, Dr. Bender is handling questions about the pre-K and decisions in that area. And she'll be putting together, I guess, a team to answer those questions.
Okay, so until I believe the director of curriculum is brought aboard, Dr. Bender will be the one to oversee the program, correct?
Yes, Ms. Ramos, I'm stepping up and I'm taking basically control with Mr. Egan. We're now just moving it forward.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you. I'm sorry for the bad connection.
Thank you for your comments. Anybody else to elevate? Okay, I guess we'll close public comments.
They can hear me. That I sound bad.
We're going to move on to agenda items. Trustee Kraft, can you move faculty and programs?
Sure. I vote to move resolutions 901 to 903.
Second.
Any questions or comments on resolution 9.01 to 9.03? Seeing none. Mr. Cathcart,
Yes.
Mr. Cooney,
Yes.
Mrs. Kraft,
Yes.
Mr. Phytros,
Yes.
Mrs. McNeil,
Yes.
Mrs. Rodriguez, she's not here. Mrs. Velez,
Yes.
Mrs. Orth,
Yes.
President Martinez.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Trustee Cooney, can you please move buildings and grounds?
Resolution Buildings and Grounds 10.01, I so move.
I'll second it.
I have a question on this, and it was the same question that came up. I would like to make a motion to amend the resolution to specify what the additions are, as opposed to saying minor amendment. Right, but the amendment says approves a minor amendment to the district's long-range facility plan. I would like to amend that resolution to say approves the addition of the HVAC upgrade in the cafeteria and roof replacement at 98 Central to the long-range plan.
I second that.
This is the motion to amend the resolution.
Okay. Roll call for the amendment of 10.01. Mr. Cathcart?
Yes.
Mr. Cooney?
Yes.
Mrs. Kraft?
Yes.
Mr. Phytros?
Yes.
Mrs. McNeil?
Yes.
Mrs. Velez?
Yes.
Mrs. Orth?
Yes.
President Martinez?
Yes.
Motion passed to amend the resolution to include the two projects that are included in the update.
And just point of order, the board now needs to vote on the amended resolution. So that vote, I believe, was just to amend the resolution. Now the board would need to vote to pass the amended resolution.
Nancy's taking notes, so she's got that.
Perfect.
I'd like to make a motion to vote on the amended resolution.
I'll second it.
Point of order, you don't have to move it. You already moved it, so she just has to do the roll.
Motion to approve amended 10.01. Mr. Cathcart?
Yes.
Mr. Cooney?
Yes.
Mrs. Kraft?
Yes.
Mr. Phytros?
Yes.
Mrs. McNeil?
Yes.
Mrs. Velez?
Yes.
Mrs. Orth?
Yes.
President Martinez?
Yes.
Motion passed.
Trustee Orth, would you please move finance and insurance?
I so move 1101 through 1116.
Second.
Any questions or comments on 11.01 to 11.16?
I have one comment. At the last meeting, there was a change to the agenda between Friday and the published agenda on Monday, which I thought had been addressed. And now, as I look at this, there were two agenda items included on Friday in what was given to the board that have been removed from this agenda. It was 1101 and 1102 were previously in there and they've been moved out. So now everything has moved up. The agenda that was sent to us on Friday included two agenda items that are not now included in this public agenda.
I believe.
If
there
you
was
look
a-
at the email that was sent to us on Friday, it includes two extra finance and insurance that are not now included. And I presume were not included in when the agenda was released to the public on Monday. But
Okay, thank you.
this
Mrs.
is
Orth.
really
I'm
an
trying
issue.
To wrap my head around this, I have to be honest with you, because now I've become superintendent, BA, director of curriculum and instruction, and pre-K. I am typically not responsible for these areas, but now I am going to have to make an oath and a promise that I am going to have to do due diligence to everybody's and making sure that I personally go through and double check each and every one. And I can only say that, again, I apologize for not following through on everyone else's. I will address it. Thank you.
Okay. I would like to, and I don't know if this is the right timing, but I would like to make a motion to table the final budget.
I second.
11:09.
Roll call for tabling 11.09. Mr. Cathcart,
Yes.
Mr. Cooney,
I just want to say before I do vote that it's not a question of confidence. It's not a question of pointing fingers. I just finding out that there was an easier way of understanding the budget prior to this meeting would have been a lot easier for me to comprehend and understand and feel comfortable voting for. So it's not a question or pointing fingers at anyone. I just, at this time, I'm not comfortable with it. So I say yes, I vote yes for tabling it.
Mrs. Kraft,
Yes.
Mr. Phytros,
Yes.
Mrs. McNeil,
Yes.
Mrs. Rodriguez, Mrs. Velez,
Yes.
Mrs. Orth,
Yes.
President Martinez.
Yes.
I have one other question on 11:08, which is revising the preliminary budget that was submitted. I'm not sure why we need to do that.
Do you mean what the revision was?
No, why we even have to vote to revise a preliminary budget if we're going to be approving a final budget in a week's time.
Mr. Egan, can you answer that?
Yes, could you, I didn't understand the question.
My question is, this meeting is when we were supposed to approve the final budget. We've just tabled it. We're going to be approving a final budget next week. But 11:08 is a motion to approve a revision to the preliminary budget that was on the March agenda. So I'm not sure. Is this a correction to the March agenda that we're voting on, or is it really a change in the preliminary budget?
I don't know the answer to that, but since we're tabling this, we're gonna have another meeting. And before we have that meeting, all the necessary information will be submitted to you and the rest of the board, obviously. And whatever little technicality is here, we'll have that corrected by that meeting.
I guess the question is, do we have to table that resolution?
Because when I read 11:08, it says that we're approving a revision of something that was previously approved to submit to the executive county superintendent. So from the March preliminary budget, did we submit that to the county superintendent? Or did we submit this 57,476 as the preliminary budget? So now this is sort of saying you voted on something, but it was the wrong number. This is the number that we actually submitted to the county. Is that what we're approving?
That even got complicated for me. So,
May I answer that, Mr. Egan?
sure.
11.08 are the final numbers that were submitted to the county, which the county approved. So this did change from the original preliminary presentation.
Got it. So this is like a retroactive approval of a change that was made after the preliminary that we approved because this is what got submitted as preliminary. Got it.
I'm glad you got it.
Thank you, Nancy.
So we've voted on tabling. Roll call on the rest of finance and insurance.
Before we do roll call, I just want to commend the district on 11.10 for providing professional development for teachers, for ESL and gen ed teachers on how to support multilingual students in the classroom, considering the drastic change in our demographic in the town. I think that's an excellent support for our teachers and for our students. So I think I wanted to say that that made me very happy. So great job with that.
Roll call on FI 11.01 through FI 11.16 with 11.09 being tabled. Mr. Cathcart,
Yes, excuse me, yes and all, but there'll be an extension on 1104.
Mr. Cooney,
Yes.
Mrs. Kraft,
Yes.
Mr. Phytros,
Yes.
Mrs. McNeil,
Yes.
Mrs. Velez,
Yes.
Mrs. Orth,
Yes.
President Martinez.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Nancy, I think Dave is actually an abstention on 1102. He's probably looking at the old agenda that had the extra 2 items on it.
You're right.
Thank you.
Trustee Kraft, can you move consent agenda?
I vote to move, I can't see, I got new glasses, sorry, 1201.
Second.
Any comments or questions on resolution CR 12.01? Seeing none. Mr. Cathcart,
Yes.
Mr. Cooney,
Yes.
Mrs. Kraft,
Yes.
Mr. Phytros,
Yes.
Mrs. McNeil,
Yes.
Mrs. Velez,
Yes.
Mrs. Orth,
Yes.
Dr. Martinez, President
Yes.
Martinez. Motion passed.
Trustee Orth, can you please move personnel?
I so move 1301 to 1309.
Second.
Any questions or comments on personnel 13.01 to 13.09? Seeing none. Mr. Cathcart,
Yes.
Mr. Cooney,
Yes.
Mrs. Kraft,
Yes.
Mr. Phytros,
Yes.
Mrs. McNeil,
Yes.
Mrs. Velez,
Yes.
Mrs. Orth,
Yes.
President Martinez.
Yes.
Motion passed.
We will now move to citizens' comments off agenda.
We didn't move Sorry. Sorry. It's 10 o'clock.
Mr. Skyfield?
Thank you. I will waive my right to speak. I see no need at this time.
Thank you. Mr. Santos?
I just want to go back to the last meeting and make something to remind everyone that the school district doesn't own the fields. The village does. The district doesn't even own the land that this building's on. We lease this land. And the fields are the responsibility of the village. And my feeling, my thought is that people should go talk to the commissioners about having the fields fixed. Of course, I know the board is doing that, but complaining here isn't the place to do it. I also had a thought that maybe the previous board shouldn't have approved a letter reprimanding and insulting the mayor and the commissioners. Maybe they should have thought about that before they approved Mr. Gibbons' letter to them. And maybe we wouldn't be in this spot. That's it.
Thank you. If I can just clarify a little bit, while I agree with you that it is they are the town's fields, it is still the district's responsibility to make sure that our kids are playing on safe fields, whether they're this town's fields or other towns' fields or rented property. And at this point, I know that there is a conflict between the two, but it still remains our responsibility. If our kids are playing on unsafe fields, it remains our responsibility. Thank you.
It was never brought up to anybody sitting there that there was a problem with the field until those kids came.
Yes, I agree with you. It was not until the kids came to complain to the board that it was known. And that's a bit of a problem that I hope we're fixing. Thank you. I'm sorry?
Well, that was part of our conversation, faculty and programs. So what's the protocol? So when the district is deeming a field safe, we would hope that there's conversation between the town and the school district, and that there's collaboration to ensure that prior to our athletes taking the field, that we're working in conjunction to ensure that they're safe for play. So that was part of our conversation yesterday during faculty and programs. And that's what was certainly missing last season, where students were on the field and it was not safe.
Mr. Rafferty? Mr. Rafferty? You're good? Mr. Rand?
Good evening again. Donna Duran, 16 Sabina Street. Mrs. Bender, you stated that you're wearing very many hats in the district. But isn't your curriculum coordinator, Mr. Haynes, with us till June 30th?
That is correct.
So why would you be putting that hat on when the hat should stay on his head?
Because I have to help supplement. The need to be very much a part of it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rand. Elizabeth Knapp? Good evening.
Good evening. Elizabeth Knapp, 96 Hazelton. It's my first Board of Ed meeting.
Welcome.
Thank you. Commend you for all your work. I'm currently in the Ed Leadership Program, and I was assigned to come and ask some questions to the board this evening. So I know that we're limited on time. If you would prefer, I can email them. There are 5 questions, easy to answer.
We're here, so why don't we do it now?
You want to hear them? Okay.
Sure.
Number 1, what committees, if any, do you serve on? I know I heard earlier a finance committee. Okay.
Do you want to just go down the list? Which committees do you serve on?
Finance and negotiations.
I'm a de facto member of all of them. I'm the president, so I'm the de facto member of all of them.
Okay. Personnel and buildings and grounds.
Same two, buildings and grounds and personnel.
Great. And Question number 2, how long is your term?
2 more.
I'm on Faculty and Programs and Personnel. On the Subcommittee of Social Justice.
I am on Negotiations and Policy.
Mr. Vitros?
Did you say social?
Negotiations.
Social Justice is a subcommittee of
Okay,
Faculty and
awesome.
Programs.
Thank you.
Mr. Cathcart?
I serve on one committee, the Finance Committee.
Thank you.
You can also find a list of the committees and who serves on those committees on our website.
Wonderful. And will I be able to find out the length of your terms as well?
We all serve
Yes.
3-year terms on a rotating basis.
Wonderful. Okay. And the last 3 questions are a little more interesting. What are some major challenges that you have found in our district?
That's a loaded question.
Wow. I think you should probably email us that question.
Okay.
And I think it might be a good exercise for the board to really think about it.
All right. Second to last, what are some positive impacts you have made?
Swinio, put you on the spot.
I think bringing transparency to the district.
That's a good one. Transparency. Last question. If you could choose one district level policy to be revised, what would it be?
Actually, our policy head is not here. But I'd say something in hiring practices,
Hiring practices.
being a little bit more comprehensive.
One of my colleagues is doing a dissertation on that, so hiring practices. Thank you. That'll be it. Thanks.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Luck.
Those are great questions. Can you tell us where you're studying
I'm actually under Dr. Stephen Locascio
from?
Maine University.
Maine.
Yeah.
Congratulations. Good luck
Thank
to you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have anybody to elevate? Okay. We have one more item. Is there anybody online who would like to raise their hand and ask a question off agenda? You have 3 seconds. Mr. Rafferty, do you want to reclaim your time?
Sorry, I forgot what I was going to address.
Happens.
I just want to make something clear as far as what my understandings were. We went through transportation for a couple of meetings. One of the board members suggested, why are they hiring more drivers when we just hired more drivers? Finally, the board made a wise decision to I can't think of the word. Oh, I'm sorry, audit the whole transportation department. The whole department was audited. The report was sent to the Board of Education. The amount of violations and steps that were not being met were excessive to where they were endangering our children, and the board took the necessary steps. Since Ms. Grabstein took over transportation, we haven't heard too much about it, which is no news is good news. Through all of this with transportation, I never recall how much money the supervisor of transportation was making. As simple as that, okay? We were looking at our children's safety. The board did the right thing, brought everything into line, and we're operating in a safe manner now. And I believe his name is Steve. He's doing a very good job, and that's all there's to it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We have one item. I guess we'll close public comments. So we're going to close public comments and move to unfinished business, which is faculty and program. So if you could just move that, Ms. Kraft, and
I make a motion to move resolution 1501.
Second.
Questions or comments on 15.01?
Dr. Bender would like to make a comment before.
Yes, I'd like to give some deeper explanation into this. There was some questions at the last board meeting, and I agreed that they needed to be tabled. This is one of two. Last board meeting, we spoke about the CUSAC and why there was one for CUSAC. CUSAC is an ongoing, every year, we continue to revise curriculum as we all spoke about the fact that it is a living, breathing document. And I have not added that one back on quite yet because I am still concerned over funding. So we see one out of two. I like to make sure that I do my due diligence when it comes to the cost in the area that I'm most familiar with, and that would be curriculum and instruction. That as the educational leader, that I take a look deeply into what we are doing with this. So that's why you will only see one brought back, and that is curriculum writing that comes from the 11 account, which is our funds. And it's for not to exceed $50,000. There will be another one that is coming out of grant funding to continue to maintain our curriculum, with the guides and everything else that goes according to that. With that for CUSAC, again, they both really are CUSAC related because again, CUSAC is annual. We don't wait for CUSAC to say they're coming for us to revise curriculum. So again, this is one of two that were there, but I really feel the need to double check the money to make sure that our buckets are appropriately funded. Once you amend the bucket, you have to wait for funding to come back in. It gets very complicated, but I'm just going to give you the shortened version of it, that this is one of two, and this is from our general funds. I hope that helped.
Thank
Is
you.
there any particular area? I know that, again, curriculum is living and breathing and ongoing, but is there any particular any particular area specifically in curriculum, any specific subject area, whether it be at the junior, senior high school, at the elementary level, that you're looking at specifically to do extensive work in curriculum on?
I have the opportunity to discuss this a little bit deeper. I do want to see movement made in our fine performing and practical arts, but I have to get contributions from our administration as to where they feel, and the teachers are, they are the ones that are in the trenches working with it. So I have to actually rely on them as well to give us some feedback for where they feel that we need to also make more movement.
I have a question. So this is a placeholder for the $50,000 so that you can determine where we need it to be written, and then it gets assigned to specific teachers to do the writing.
Teachers have to apply for curriculum writing. That has not come here yet.
Right, but that comes, so this 50K is the number that you're going to use for that.
Set aside, yes.
Any other questions?
Dr. Martinez, can I
Yes,
just
sir.
say one thing real quick? Last meeting, I did make a comment about the softball fields. I heard from parent about the fields, and I made a statement that the fields were not in great shape, as specifically to the softball field. Subsequently, after the meeting, I did hear back from some little fairy parents that told me different information. So I do want to apologize that I was given a little bit of misinformation and then made a statement that wasn't totally accurate. So I want to apologize. I was told that the fields have been better. So I want to publicly apologize for a statement that I made based on information I was given that was not 100% accurate, albeit that the fields are not in the manner that we'd all would like to hope for. They have had some improvement. So I want to get that on the record. And just say that, I wasn't given entirely the story that I did depict in the last meeting. The girls softball team is doing very well, and I want to take away from that. And albeit that we want the field to be better, they have shown some improvement, and we just hope that they continue to improve the fields along with the great play that the girls are showing on the field. Thank you. That's all.
I'd like to add to that. Mr. Phytros, I want to thank you for your call that followed that meeting. And I appreciate you alerting me that you were misinformed and that you were going to have this conversation here again. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. We need a roll call on curriculum writing.
Okay, roll call on 15.01. Mr. Cathcart,
Yes.
Mr. Cooney,
Dr. Bender, thank you for that explanation. Yes.
Mrs. Kraft,
Yes.
Mr. Phytros,
Yes.
Mrs. McNeil,
Yes.
Mrs. Velez,
Yes.
Mrs. Orth,
Yes.
President Martinez.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Can I please have a motion to close the meeting?
I make a motion to close the meeting.
All right.
Who second? Carol second. Have a good night, everybody. Thank you.